Okay, does that help? Thank you. I'm sorry. I had clicked a button earlier on my mic. It was a new button. I didn't realize that the mute was on the actual physical device and on there. So hopefully everybody can hear me now. And I will go back to saying what I was saying. So today we are going to be working on, right now, just this morning, changing out this rotary cutter. So I have a rotary cutter. It's called a True Cut. What's that? You didn't, oh no, you didn't sound rude at all. I was just embarrassed because I don't like tech failures. I'm just really weird on tech failures. How you doing? Nice to see you here, or hear you here, I guess. So are you new to sewing? So we're just looking at this rotary cutter here. And so this rotary cutter, it has this cool groove that it sits inside. And you can kind of see the groove here. And that lets you be able to get, so we're going to change the blade in here. And I'm going to show you how I keep my blades. These blades came from Amazon. They're a lot cheaper than the blades that you get at the sewing store. So when they come, they're going to come with like this. I turn them over like that, hold them, be very, very careful. That sharp edge is all there. And then if you move them apart, there's some oil on them, and that will help you get them loose. So I'm just going to put this down real quick, carefully. And what I do is I have this one marked old blades. And the old blades are basically, you know, obviously the old blades. Awesome! Well, hand sewing takes some practice. So that's one of them that you just kind of have to keep working and working and working. So no big deal. I know a lot of sewers who despise hand sewing. They only do it at, you know, required times. But yeah, I'm glad you're here. We'll keep working and hopefully we can get you sewing. So I'm going to go ahead and take this off. Now most rotary cutters, and let me bring my other rotary cutter into the picture here so I can show you guys one that's more common. So both of these have a knob on the back. So all rotary cutters here are going to have that. So we're just going to unscrew it. I'm going counterclockwise. And then I'm going to take off this thing here. And I'm going to take this one apart just to show you how a standard rotary cutter comes apart. Then what I did is I held my finger on the bottom because this part's going to come loose here. So then I'm going to take my finger, I'm just going to push it up gently, and then I'm going to put my tool down here. So now I have my front and my back, and now this can actually just slide right off. So let's just pretend we put a new blade on there. We're just going to line that hole back up. Move that one out of the way. Line that hole back up. Put this one on first. There is, in here, there's actually a direction. There's like a little flat part on each side. You have to kind of get that wiggled in. And hold it with your finger, turn it over on the back, and then tighten it. Now we're not tightening this for the end of the world. We're tightening this just gently. And you're going to need to hold down and then just finger tighten. Not going too crazy because you actually want to get this, you know, off at some point, and you want to have that blade be able to turn. If you drive it and your blade just doesn't want to turn, you can loosen it a little bit. So I'm going to put that back on. We're going to change to this blade. Now this one's a little different. So as you can see, if I turn this, that whole thing is turning. So I'm going to hold this side one way, and then I'm just going to open it on the other side. Now there's this sort of screw here, this bolt, and then you'll see this little kind of washer. It's a wavy washer. It can go on either this way or that way, but all that's doing is giving a little spring tension into the cutter here so that you can, so when it turns nicely. So I picked that up, and now that's that out of the way. Now we have the blade. As you can see, it's still attached. So I'm just going to gently put it onto my finger, and I'm going to open up my old blades case. Maybe I should have opened that first, and pop that in there. And I'll keep doing this until this case is completely full, and then I'll tape this up and throw the whole thing away at once. Or there are sites where you can actually have these sharpened again. There are sharpeners for these. I've never tried one. So now I'm just gonna take this, I'm gonna roll off one blade. Like I said, they're pretty thin. I'm gonna roll off one blade, and it has some oil on it. The oil won't hurt anything. And then I'm just gonna kind of gently do that there. And these blades, of course, so I'm gonna do the dangerous thing and just kind of gently touch it there. Put that lid back on so there's no accidents. The lids for these cases are not the best. These ones from Amazon, but I'll take it for being like 1/3 the price. So this cutter, by the way, can be made right or left-handed. So I could actually switch this whole thing back to go the other direction. I happen to be left-handed. Now, while I have this open, I'll show you guys. There is some muck in here, and I'm just gonna clean that up a little bit. When you sew fuzzy things, you get some muck, some fuzz, some business going on in there. And maybe later I'd take some tools like a toothpick or something and clean that out, but I'm not gonna do it right now. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put that back in there. I'm just gonna bring this down onto that blade there. Gonna push that forwards so that the safety is there. This came out, it just sits right in there. So I'm gonna put that in, and now I am going to put in my wavy washer. It's just gonna sit however there. It'll get itself worked out. And then I'm gonna screw this back on nicely, but not super tight. Now I can test drive it, and we're good to go. So we have a now nice, fresh new rotary cutter. If you were watching yesterday, it was horrible. I couldn't even use that thing for anything. It was a miserable, miserable rotary cutter. So I'm gonna go ahead and put us back to the 2-part setup, and we'll continue yesterday where we left off. We're gonna cut the inside. I'm gonna show you guys the image on what we're working on here. If you weren't here from yesterday. So I'm gonna move back over here. All right. And I'm gonna make this bigger. Move these rotary blades off to the side. Where am I gonna put them? Over here, so they don't get a problem. And then we're gonna make this up and away. There we go. Anybody have anything interesting they're working on? Feel free to put it in the chat. All right, here we go. Bring this just a little closer. So yesterday we were working on, and of course I put my project way out of my reach, like a silly person. 30 seconds, not even. All right, so we were working on this cool little baby shark blanket. It's a really great, it's not a baby shark blanket, I'm making an adult shark size, but it's a great beginner project. I like to give beginners stuff like this because it doesn't have fitting, it doesn't have complicated seaming. It is a little bit of complicated seaming, but if you don't get it perfect, it's perfectly okay. And it's just fun. It's a fun make, and you get to do something that makes a great gift for others. My kids love stuff like this. So I am working on these for them. Put that off to the side. So we already cut the big green pieces. The neon green is going to be the body of the shark and all the fins. My youngest wanted a neon green shark. So we're going to do the inside of the mouth, which is going to be red, and he actually wants the contrast here to be gray. So we're going to go ahead and cut those today. I'm going to get my facing piece. So the facing piece gets cut on the fold. That's what this line is here. And then we're going to cut 2 unfolded fabric. One's going to be the top, one's going to be the bottom. And then those are going to go on the inside that will give him his red mouth under his pointy teeth. So I'm going to grab my red. Here we go. I'm going to move this back. We don't need that one right now. And put those scissors back. We don't need one right now. We'll use this guy. Over here. And that business over here. Okay. So we're going to get, oh, yes. I will turn the music down. I can't tell how loud the music is. Is it better now? Should be better now. Let me know if it's better now. Ah, I'm losing my piece. There we go. All right. Trying to figure this whole YouTube thing, or this whole, not YouTube, streaming thing out. Still a little new. Getting all my tech. Once my tech is all in order, I won't be doing all this, like... Thank you. Yeah, I found this music on a YouTube channel that said it was royalty-free, nice music, and I thought it was calm for sewing. So this is a cut-on fold piece, and we're gonna cut 2 of them. So I have this scrap of red that I'm working with here. And what I'm gonna do right now is we are getting, oh, and this red, of course, is eating all that light. Let's make that a little brighter here. All right, main camera. There we go. All right, so this piece has to fit on here, on the fold. And in order for it to do that, how long have I been streaming? I have actually, this is my 2nd week streaming. This is my 4th session. I have been sewing for 30 years, but this is my 2nd session here streaming. So I'm still a little noob, still trying to get all this business figured out, especially the camera angles. It's a little hard. They're a little different. And it's weird, kind of, it's almost like blind because of how my tables are. Sometime I will upgrade for newer equipment and this won't be quite so difficult. All right. Oh, sorry about that. I need to still be able to see my chat and my thing here. So we need to get this on the fold. So what we have to do first, oh, thank you so much. You are so sweet. I'm trying. I teach in person. So what I'm trying to do is pretend I've got a person on the other side of the room. And that helps a whole lot because I like when people are, you know, there. And I teach kids a lot. I have a student actually coming in on Friday. She's so sweet. Took her like 2 weeks before she was able to really talk to me. But now that she's chatterboxy, I love it. All right, let's get this all in. I'm just gonna turn this a little bit so you guys can see. Awesome, awesome. Okay, so what I'm doing is I am doing a fold on the fabric here. Now we could have cut this flat, and if we were to cut it flat, then we would open it up and then we would do this and we would flip this, but we're gonna do this the easy way. So the easy way is to go ahead and get this cut on the fold. I'm gonna try and use the majority of my fabric that I can. And then what I'm gonna do here is get this all lined up on the grain. And I'm just gonna kind of let this go where it wants to do. It's a small piece and this grain appears to be on target. We'll just stretch it a little and see. Okay, so once that's lined up, I'm gonna grab my pins. I'm gonna continue to use those magic pins that I was working on yesterday. So yesterday we were reviewing, I wanna review these on my YouTube channel because they're new and they're interesting. They have a silicone top on them. Actually, this camera might show you better. They have a silicone top on them that you can iron and so that they don't melt to your iron. And then they are long and quilt pin style. So I can use them in fabrics, a lot of different kinds of fabrics. So what I'm gonna do is pin the fold first. So they're lined up. One pin here, one pin here. And my pinning procedure is basically I push down into the fabric until I can feel my tabletop, and then push down and around, let that pin go under, then put one finger, pull up and push through, and that's a really easy pinning method. Now we're gonna smooth. Smoothing requires your whole hand. You wanna lay it flat and just take a nice soft hand and take it across. We don't want any wrinkles because wrinkles are gonna change the size. So now we're gonna go ahead and pin this, just one here and one here. There we go. And then we're gonna pin over on these edges here. One here. So I'm gonna take that in a little deeper because you're gonna see in a minute. One thing that interested me about these is when I put my quilting rulers on top, they will not make them rise, my quilting ruler rise up so far, or this ruler. So I'm gonna use this metal ruler actually here, and that'll work just fine. We're gonna get the rotary cutter and just cut against this metal ruler. So I'm gonna go ahead and push my blade, this plasticky part, there we go, push my blade up against there. There we go. And push down, giving good pressure, but not too much pressure. Then I'm gonna get this side. Now you can see my ruler is almost too short. If my ruler was too short, and I actually don't like when the ruler is this short because it gets a little dangerous for my fingers, I'm gonna get out a bigger ruler. Nice to have a lot of different kinds of rulers. I like this ruler because it has little feet in the back that keep it from slipping, and it has that lip on the edge, which also keeps it from slipping. Quilters make great rulers. They are pricey, but they're great. So you don't need, but you only need like one or two of them. So I'm just gonna take that down. You guys are hearing that click? If you hear that that click, that's where it's just straightening up the edge of that pattern. I know for a fact this piece is supposed to be straight, so that's fine. That pattern probably wasn't cut 100% straight. This kind of paper doesn't do good anyway. So I'll just grab those bits of paper here, and now I'm gonna turn this. I turn my pieces anytime that I can because I want them to be the best in the position for me. You can go ahead and turn your stuff as much as you like. Just keep it smooth, keep it flat, keep it pinned. If I am not going to pin, if I'm using pattern weights, then I am really careful when I turn or I move me. So you can move your body or yourself or your stuff. Either way works, but definitely you can get up and get around and get moving. So I got that. See, oh, that nice new blade works so much better. That dull one yesterday was miserable. So we've got one cut. Now we've got this little triangle thingy here, and I'll repeat because I don't know, we probably don't have the same people on as yesterday. So I don't cut, you'll notice I didn't cut the triangle to the out. And the reason for not cutting that triangle to the out, I'll put it over here so you guys can see it better. And the reason for not cutting that triangle to the out is because the, let me bring that, I'll bring that down real quick. Is because, and it's crazy. All right, there we go. Is because it's really hard to cut, and that's a really silly way. So in couture, what we do is you snip just, this is a tiny trick. So couture is fancy for like, so high-end sewing. So in high-end sewing, we don't really do that. We'll do is a clip. And so we'll take one edge, and this is why your good sharp scissors are really important. Just snip it right smack through the middle, and now that's a separation. So now we can match up those points to the other points, and we get so much better matches, and we can do that lovely rotary cutter so we don't have to worry about all that business. So I'm gonna go ahead and bring that camera back up here. There we go, and we're gonna get this unpinned and get that second piece cut. We only need 2 red pieces here. I love to use all my scraps, every last little bit. I don't like waste. Kind of funny about that. I don't like waste at all. In Asian, traditional Asian, like Japan and China and Korea, pattern pieces are usually made in rectangles or squares so as to produce almost, if not no, waste patterns. So I'm gonna just fold that gently and put that off to the side. And now what's really cool is we have a nice, pretty, straight edge. Look at that. And what we can do is get that right back on there, line that back up. And once it is lined back up, we can pin that back down and just continue cutting where we were. So I don't have to waste any fabric cutting this edge. Very, very cool. I love historical patterns and historical sewing. So I always like to kind of connect the dots, because I feel like so much of our history is tied to sewing for so many years until essentially recent history. We did not have mass-produced clothing. The idea of mass-produced clothing didn't come about until the Industrial Revolution, and even then, you know, it was slow to take off. So this idea, this separation between our clothes, how they get made, is really rather fresh and new in history. So I'd love to go back and learn more about how people handled it before, because we've been dressing ourselves since the dawn of time, but how we dress ourselves and how we make our clothes has changed, although not as much as you think. It's pretty cool. I like knowing that I'm doing something here that, you know, brings me back in history, takes me to my ancestors, takes me back generation after generation, especially of women in my family, but men too, because men sewed. So home sewers were usually women, but when we go back far enough, we can see that tailors were men. And traditionally, you know, they would have those high-end jobs. It's really interesting because millinery was quite acceptable for women, but millinery used to be just the accessories department, which we think of millinery just as hats, whereas it's actually kind of all accessories. Also very cool. If I am boring you guys chattering about my fashion history knowledge, just let me know. So what I did here, I rolled that back part up because I don't want to cut any more into that. I just kind of let that go a little bit because that's going to make just a tiny bit of waste there on that edge, but I can continue to use that piece. See, having one of these with the lip really helps. I like that. It's very nice. Okay. And then we are going to hit this with our little scissors here. Not cutting in. Now, some of these lines on the pattern. Oh, you like my history lesson. You get a free history lesson when you come with me. Okay, so that's really cool. We're going to talk a little bit more about these. Just real quick review what we have, what we're looking at here. So these dotted lines, these are going to be our sewing lines. We snipped our edge. We had that fold line. This is a facing. A facing, by the way, is just a fancy, fancy word for the thing that goes on the other side that helps you finish the edge. It's really a complicated word for something really, really simple. It's just another piece, in other words. And what's really good is that facings are really, really easy to make. And I will show you guys in later streams how we can build a facing for just about anything. Especially skirts. Skirts at the top, I love to build facings for if I'm not going to do a lining because I spilled all my pins. Get back in there. You had a costume design class in college. It was fun. Yes. Okay. Funny story about me and in college. So my college background is actually in computer science, but I've loved sewing. I've been sewing since I was 6. And so you just guys have to bear with me with my story here while I prep for the next spot. So I've been sewing since I was 6. So in college, we had at the 3rd floor library, I went to SIUE here in Illinois. We had on the 3rd floor the costuming books. Well, I would get bored, especially if I had a class that was not going to be for a while and I had a big break in between. So I'd end up in the library, where any good girl would end up, stealing the costumers' books. They used to actually get to the point where I could tell started to know who was a costuming major or a theater major, and they would see me coming and they go, "Don't check out my books." And I'm like, "What? I'm just reading." They're like, "You don't need them. Don't check out my books. I need them for my project." It's like, well, I just was so interested. I just had to steal them. Just the way it rolled. So I'm going to get that gray. I'm going to be right back. Get that gray. We are going to By the way, you guys will see me throwing pieces on the floor. I have mentioned this before, but I'll mention it again. When I throw pieces on the floor, it's because they are scrap. I do not like to have to figure out which pieces are scrap and which pieces are not. So I just throw the scrap on the floor and clean it up at the end of the night. Easy peasy. Lemon squeezy. Yeah, well, it's easier to sweep up. Oh, this story is funny? Yeah, my college years were funny in general. All right, let's see if this is on grain. Yesterday, we noticed it was quite not on grain, but this looks amazingly on grain. Let's see here. Wow. That is a very, very strangely on grain. I'm gonna move my phone here again with my chat. I can see you guys chatting. All right, now we have some really weird shaped pieces to cut right now. So we have all of these bands. Let's find where the grain lines are. Now I could have cut this using the pattern layout. We'll get that out. Let's look and see what they suggest for the. So we could use the cutting layout. I almost never use these directions. I kind of use my own brain because honestly, I think these directions are garbage. And honestly, I've followed directions before in these and I've been sewing for 30 years and I still have no clue what they're talking about. They're crazy. But we can look at least at the cutting layout. So let's find our cutting layout. This is the adult shark blanket. Aha, down here. The tail fin. So what are they showing? So they're showing that we'll have 13, which is kind of up this way. So we're going to be very careful to pay attention to our grain so that we don't get these pieces all crazy. So we're supposed to cut 4 of these. I should copy off one of these, but I don't want to because I'm lazy. So they're telling you that you need 4 of them, which means we're going to have to repeat this one, then repeat it again. Then they want piece 18 and 11. Let's see, oh, not piece 18, piece 11. They want it to go this way. Let's see here. Piece 15. I don't even know which way they want that to go. That way, I guess. This is a puzzle. We're figuring out our fun puzzle. Okay. And then this lower fin band is here. You know what? I like to use these small pieces for stuff, so we're gonna just go ahead and do the very best we can, very best way I know how. And if we use a little more fabric, we use a little more fabric, because I think my way might end up being pretty good. All right, it's off camera. Let me move that back on camera. I'm gonna put this onto my board. I made these boards. If anybody is interested, I can make one on camera. They're very cool. Those boards that are behind me. I don't know if you guys can see them. They are made from a square piece. It's like pink insulation foam. It's about, I don't know, what, 2 inches, an inch thick, I think, an inch and a bit. And so the insulation foam, you just cover it with felt or towel and then cover it again with some muslin fabric. You could cover it with more fun fabric, but I wanted a basic backdrop. I actually found it from a quilter's website. It was really cool. And they make double as a little sound muffling and a place to pin. So I can have all my fun pin boards. I like to pin my patterns up there too when I'm not using them, because otherwise I take the big piece of fabric and whoosh, they blow all over the floor, and then my cat comes and my cat's like, OMG, pattern pieces, let me eat them, because he's a kitten and he's crazy. We think he's actually like possibly possessed, who knows? He's completely insane. So here we go. We talked yesterday about the grain. These pieces have a grain that is so minuscule and so tiny that we're just going to do the best we can to kind of eyeball these up. I really don't think there's any really great way to make sure these are perfect on grain. And I'm also going to pin down the center on these. I'm not going to pin the whole outside. It's just too difficult to try and pin those. We could pin them diagonal. Let's see if the diagonal will help. Yeah, diagonal works pretty good. But other than that, I don't know of any good way to pin these teeny weenies. They're very narrow. They're gonna be cute though. I like the lime green and the gray. I think it's very, very cute. And I'm not gonna go too crazy pinning because I'm gonna use that rotary cutter. The only thing I might get more is that point. Let's see here, because that point's gonna wanna come up. I can use the top of that to make it go down. Come on, you. That's sticky. I don't know what I did yesterday that made that sticky. If your pins get sticky, you can actually just take some rubbing alcohol or some acetone if you had any glue on them or something like that, and just rub them with a little rubbing alcohol or acetone. Helps a lot. Now I'm going to start down here because this end, I'm starting down at the folded edge. Sorry. At this folded edge here. You know what I'm going to do is see if I can get just a little bit more view here. There we go. There we go. Maybe. All right, so I'm just going to start here at the very end just because I'm trying to get the max out of this folded edge here. I'm going to bring this as close as I can just to save on some fabric here because we need 4 of those. We need 2, so those will be done and cut, and we'll have to cut another 2 out of those. Right? And try a diagonal pinning there. And then I'm just gonna smooth this out. If I weren't wanting to move this around, I could grab my pattern weights, and what I'll do is I'll put them just on that side. But I'm gonna swirl around. This table's too big to actually be able to walk my body around, and you guys wouldn't see me on camera very well, so I'm gonna do it this way. And this way, if you had a table that was maybe up against the wall or something. Yesterday I mentioned cutting in the floor. Really big pieces do work well to cut on the floor. These pieces are nice. You can cut them on a table. They're not too big. So there's that. And then we'll go again over here. Too many pins sometimes doesn't help you because if you have too many pins, it'll start to squish up your pattern and your piece won't be very accurate. But this polar fleece stuff is just a pain in the butt when it comes to cutting. It's so fuzzy, it's so thick that it's difficult. Even with my rotary cutter, the one that I have here has that little lip on it, and that little lip doesn't like all this thickness. I have one at home that works very well for this. Of course, I didn't bring it today. My studio is located in a different building than my home, so I don't have the streaming capabilities out of my house. Our internet is not the best. Our neighborhood is kind of overfull with wireless and kind of all that business, so can't quite stream at home yet. They say they're gonna fix it though eventually. We'll see. All right, here we go. Get that piece down there at the end, and then we will cut these out. So close, but not yet. I kind of have this little like thing in my head where I'm keeping track. I'm like, okay, I'm almost done. Only 842 pieces left to go. Then we had this other piece here. We don't want to forget that one. We can kind of put that one in here. Now this one we can measure. This one is big enough. But I'm going to try and edge it in here. So see, we have like used up enough of this. And then we'll just have this one and this one that we'll need to get another 2 cut. You could double this again and pre-cut 4 of them, but I wouldn't do it with the polar fleece. If this was cotton, like quilting cotton or something thinner, I would, but I don't think that my pattern pieces would align quite correctly. Nor would my rotary cutter like it very much. It's just so thick. All right, where did I put Mr. Silver Ruler? Yesterday we'd used this, and we also used, oh, my table is huge. That's crazy. I got that just out of, I need like a step stool so I can jump it. If I guys show you this table, it's big enough for 2 people to sew at the same time on either side of the table. I wanted to have a space for when people came in here. I did not think about the fact that when I would be streaming, I would have to, you know, practically jump the table. What's good for one doesn't work for the other, but we'll make it work. So 2 ways we can check this grain line. First, we can hit it here. Kind of just use our fingers and do it. Or we can use handy dandy tape measure. And then handy dandy tape measure goes here. Just put it down at the edge of the fabric and drop it there. And then just kind of carefully line it up. All right. And then what we're gonna do is put that pin in there. And then we're gonna just smooth from here. And we'll cut this big business out. And then we will have just those 4 pieces left. And then we can probably start to get sewing. Sewing is fun, getting the machine out. I was saying yesterday we're gonna get my vintage machine out that I cleaned up all by myself. Took me a little research and a lot of oil to actually clean it up and get her ready. You don't have to worry which directions you put your pins in, by the way. Whichever direction feels comfortable to you. But just know that if you're putting them in 2 directions, if you think they're all this way, pointing towards here, and then you put your hand like this, yeah, you'll end up getting stuck. So this here with this here, now I can't put my hand down in any direction. Probably not the best idea, but it was how I did it. I don't think I'll have to put my hands down over that piece. My kids know my promise is always when I'm sewing, I won't prick anyone else with a needle or a pin, just myself. I'm to the point where, you know, I can have something sticking out of my finger and I'm just like, oh, a pin, that's nice. Pull out, antibiotics on, all done. Which is really funny because for so many years I was afraid of needles at the actual doctor, even though I love to play with needles. It made no sense. All right, so I don't have a board that will go as far out as this does. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use my scissors and I'm just gonna cut along this line. So yesterday I was talking about this when we're cutting with our scissors. What I don't like to do most of the time is cut all the way to the point because you have a chance of getting jaggies, which are jaggedy edges. So what I do is cut most of the way down, then pick up, cut most of the way down, and bring that center, bring the V here of your scissors all the way up and get it in there without pulling too hard. Because if you pull a lot, this will stretch. So you can see it's stretching just a little bit as I pick up, but then it stretches back. And you have to just learn to judge that amount that it's going to stretch up and back. That's just something you get used to. You do have seam allowance there. So I'm going to go, I did not put a pin there. I think I'm going to put a pin there. I'm just going to try and get this all cut off, and then I can get these pieces kind of separated so I can move them around with the rotary cutter. That'll be easier to work with them. Again, I always like to make things as easy for myself as I can. Oh, the other thing we have to cut before we can start sewing officially are the appliques. I don't know if I have any white. Oh, I think I do. I think I see some over there. Okay, so we're just going to put that over there. Put my ruler down to weight that on that side. All right. Where am I going to cut now? I think I'll cut right here, up, and then over there. That will get my, that'll take care of this here. Okay. Cutting, cutting, cutting. Anybody has any questions or wants to tell me about what they're up to, go ahead. I'm ready in the chat. chatting. Now on this edge, I'm going to go all the way to that point. And I'm going to do the same thing. Just going to put that here. Now you can use your hand to bring down that edge whenever you're working. Another thing you can do is use a ruler as a weight to help keep that edge down. While you're cutting these insides of the pieces, you can actually kind of bring it up like that to fold it so you can get your hand inside. It does help to get your hand inside those pieces, so you can kind of bring it down like that. I'll get back to my rotary cutter soon. That'll make me happy. And then I'm going to not cut that one all the way down because I'd like to get that straight with the rotary cutter. So that's one piece. Now I'm just going to get these separated out now, roughly. Ew, thought I cut you. There you go. I tossed my fabric. You got Assassin's Creed today? Oh my God, so awesome. My husband's on and he's been playing nonstop. I do like this one. It's very pretty to watch. I never end up playing because I'm just, yeah, you got your coat today. Oh, I think it would make an amazing coat. Really, really. My husband wants me to make him one, and I think if I do, I'll just make sure that he wears it all the time, all the time. I think it'd look cool to wear as a regular coat, but I'm weird. I wear crazy stuff all the time, just for fun. So I'm probably not the best candidate. Yes, I know I could play, but I don't want to play because I'm worried I'm going to get addicted to it. I'm worried that no one else is going to get it back, and it's going to be just like what happened when I started playing. That is just, this one is really hard to use because of this lip when it's not on straight edge. I'm going to get this one. What was it? God of War. When I started playing God of War, I went berserk. Yeah, I know. Oh, so you got the cosplay. Do you play the game? Like I said, my husband plays. I just got him Origins. You want to play so bad? Why don't you play? Is it like you just don't have the system? I think it's a beautiful game. I just like watching it like a movie. I do. I think that the cutscenes are really pretty. So I'll be working and my husband will be playing, and then I watch all the pretty cutscenes. I think they're really cute. Well, they're not cute. They're cool. I'm going to throw that piece over there because that piece is still usable. If it's usable, I save it. Got to save it. All right. Ruler. These tiny little straight edges are especially difficult without a ruler. Put that here. Okay. Well, that is just like insane bright. Wow, wow, wowie. Let me fix that. It's so weird because the color, I wonder if I can make it go full auto. I wonder if it would help. No, that definitely does not help. Come on. Now it's going to lock up on me. Watch it lock up on me. Cancel. No. Your video. Sorry, sorry. This is ridiculous. This thing is. I want a new overhead camera so bad. There we go. Turn the brightness up just a teensy. All right. Sorry about that camera angle there. That was just terrible. Oh, no system, bad internet. Yeah. Do you have HTC like we do? Because I know you're rural. We got the PS4 like 2 years ago. It was a family Christmas present, which was pretty cool because it was kind of a present for all of us. It was technically my kids thought they were getting it, but it was everybody's. I think it ended up being more my husband's. So I'm going to do those little nodules there. Now this circle, if you were not here yesterday, this little circle here is is just a match point for how far and in, because we're going to be lining this up to something else. This is very easily measured by measuring in 1/2 inch, or I think this is a 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch and 1/2 inch. It's more accurate than that circle there, so I'm not going to mess with those. I don't usually do those. So this one was just a cut 2, so I'm going to take these pins out. Oh, yeah. I have crap internet and I don't have a gaming computer. We ended up, my husband had one a while ago, but we ended up not keeping up to date on computers at home because I just focus on my work computers. And so we just use the PlayStation. Of course, everybody laughs because we don't have an Xbox yet. Everybody else has an Xbox One, but we kind of stuck to the PlayStation system. Something that I do to keep my patterns together and my pieces together until I use them is I just kind of gently fold them in while I'm using them. And then I'm going to put that in a nice little stack over there. And then we're going to get this weirdo piece here. Okay. This song is weird. I'm not loving this song. I think I'm going to skip. Where do I skip? YouTube, where do I skip? There we go. Skip that one. I didn't like that one. I'm so weird about music. Like, most music I like, but every once in a while I find something and it just doesn't go with me. I'll have to recopy this playlist. Okay. Then we're going to get the inside here. It is so much easier to cut fabrics that are not this thick with a small rotary cutter, but one day I'll get all the right supplies here. I have to look down or else I'm going to end up with my fingers in the rotary cutter, and then you guys will get to see blood squirting everywhere. Okay, so I wanted to show this to you. This is, the rotary cutter is starting to get a little dull. So let's have to snip that there. And we'll get these. There we go. Oh, almost forgot. It's important to check all of your sides on these weirdly shaped pieces because it's really easy to forget them. And I believe that is supposed to be straight. That pin is causing it to go not straight. Put that up against there. There we go. This one is also a cut 2. We'll just get these pins out. I do like how easy it is to grab a whole bunch of them at one time. I keep rolling them up. You guys will notice I roll them up into my finger each time, and that means I don't have to keep doing. Now, another thing that you could do is if you have a magnetic pin cushion, what I'll do is just pull, 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 and just leave them there, and take my magnetic cushion and just whoop, all the way across. My kids like to watch that. Because it's like, you know those most satisfying videos? It's like most satisfying video picking up pins with your magnetic pin cushion. It's really dorky but fun. All right, here we go. Oh, can't see myself. There we go, here we go, here we go, here we go now. Get busy. Can you tell I'm from the 90s? I was singing something today that my 12-year-old, now this is where moving is going to be. I'm moving this way. Let's see, rather than moving my piece, I move me. Ah! Hip check the table. Okay. And I'm left-handed, so I keep moving my things from the outside. And if you were right-handed, you'd probably be coming around from this angle. So you guys can just flip, 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 flip. There we go. And then I'm always resituating. I'm always keeping things flat. That's really it's a skill that you just have to keep prodding yourself at. Just remember, smooth, pretty fabric. Pet the fabric. Petting the fabric is actually your job when you're sewing. Smooth, pretty, pet the fabric. That's why I never, 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 never sew with fabric I don't like to touch. Because if I don't want to pet it, then I won't, and it will, my project won't be very nice. So, petting the fabric is where we need to stay. When I'm at the fabric store, I actually shop with my fingers as much as I shop with my eyes. I always tell my kids, it's the one place where we get to touch all of the fabric. They like to touch. I like to touch the fabric. It's nice. Because why would you even want to sew with something that you don't like to touch? If you don't like to touch it with your fingertips, you're not going to want it on your body. So if you don't, now when I have little scraps like this that I know I can use for something, but like this obviously is not going to happen. I'll just cut that business off and then fold this up. Polar fleece is super usable for all sorts of stuff. So I keep extra just kind of laying around. I keep a big bag with my small scraps. At Archon, when I did the dice bags, they were every single dice bag that someone got to make was actually a leftover polar fleece scrap. Turn it this way. That's what happens. I can't do it the way I want. It was a leftover polar fleece scrap. I had enough random scraps to make like 25 dice bags. It was pretty sweet. That was for my teen programming panel. It was really cool. The kids were really cool. There was some grown-ups in there too. That was neat. I don't know why it was only teen programming. I think that would have been good for grown-ups and for teens and for whatever. Especially learning to hand sew the very first time. It's different, you know, there's a lot of coordination in it. People don't realize. I saw this really neat article the other day that they were discussing that the new generation, I'm not going to call them millennials because I don't like that term. Anyway, the younger generation, the 20-somethings in med school right now are struggling with the suturing, with the sewing part of suturing, because we manipulate flat screens so much and we don't manipulate three-dimensional objects like we used to on a regular basis. And because of that, sewing is more difficult. So if you are younger and you are finding that hand sewing more difficult, it's probably, actually it's definitely not your fault. It's just one of those things that you have to learn. And so overcoming that difficulty means that you're just improving that hand-eye coordination and you're like leveling up. So I tell my kids, level up your skills. It's a good way to think about this stuff, because when you start a game, you start as the noob, you know? And I tell my kids the same thing, or my new students. It's the easiest way to talk to them about learning to sew. It's like, well, you're noob. When you're in a game and you're noob, do you get mad because you can't beat like the highest level boss? Well, maybe you get mad, but you don't quit the game. You level up, so you're not a noob anymore. And that's how this sewing stuff works. You have to level up through practice, and your projects will become better and better one by one. But I also like the idea of picking things. Oh, that was a 4 and that was a 4. Let's bring that back because we need that pattern piece again. I like the idea of picking things to start with on your very first projects that are attainable. Things you can complete your project on. And that way you can feel that level of success, you know, a whole, I did it kind of thing. And you have this thing that you're not ashamed of and instead you're thrilled with. And that gives you a momentum to move forwards in a way that you don't get without that. You know, and that's why I tell everybody with cosplay, especially, like, if you did it, you've already leveled up. Just the act of doing it, even if it's part closet cosplay, it doesn't matter. You did it. You got out there and you did the hard thing. So you're already leveled up on it, on others who just sit there and talk. And they'll love it. There's so many people who talk smack like, oh, that would be the most epic, like, your cosplay is garbage. Look at this guy. And then I always like to ask him, well, how many cosplays have you done? None, but I'm going to do one and it's going to be awesome. Well, guess what? It can only be awesome if you ever do it. And those people are too scared to do it. I'm saying. Thirsty. All right. Do you like my water bottle? It's, here. It was my art museum membership thing. They had a really cool, you can see that, they had an awesome Egyptian exhibit over the summer. It was pretty epic. And part of the Egyptian, when we renewed our membership, if you're not from St. Louis, our museums are all free. and memberships are a big portion of how they stay free. And I love art and the art museum, so we are patrons of the arts, and I like to support them that way. You know, it's not terribly expensive either, and we get parking, $5 in the art museum lot, which is right close to the zoo. And zoo parking is absolutely nuts, and so you can park on the street near our zoo, but that's kind of one of those good luck, you gotta be there at 6 a.m. And then if you want to park in the lot, it's up to like $20 a car. So if you get an art museum membership, which I think the lowest cost one is like, I don't remember, like $80 or something like that. But if you go a lot, it's worth its money. Okay, let's see how we can get these pieces in here. You know what? I am going to cross grain this because this is a pin band, and I'm going to quilt in here and top stitch and do all kinds of fun stuff. The only thing is, does the pile change? Nah. I'm going to do the cross grain there. That's for fabric saving. So the cross grain is, oh, that's off the camera. There we go. Almost. The camera's not flat, that's why. I wish I had a way to get this up where you guys could see that whole, give me 1 second. You guys could see that whole table. There we go. All right, there we go. Now you can see more of that table. Ah, itching, itchy, itchies. I hate itches. I'm like a weird anti-itcher. I don't like to itch. I don't think anybody likes to itch though. Kids go nuts about mosquito bites. My youngest hates itching so much that he's like, he's actually afraid of mosquitoes. He's a mosquito and he's like, oh my God, kill it. Kill the mosquito. Which is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Because I'm like, how do you even know it's a mosquito? He'll be like, I can see it. It's a moth. It's a mosquito. It's ridiculous. Absolutely silly. But my boys are silly. I love my silly boys though. They're crazy. Where did I put my... So sewing is the art of where did I put that last? It's really, if I had to summarize sewing, yep, it's the art of where did I put my scissors? Where did I put my ruler? Where did I put my needle? Where did I put my pins? It doesn't matter. It's where did I put that, Bill? But I think that's all of us, because I was watching Ted, Evil Ted Smith earlier, yesterday actually, and he was doing the same thing. Where did I put that? So I think we're all, now I'm putting this on the grain, I'm just measuring to make sure, and then I'm gonna pin this down, and then I'm gonna pin this one down on that cross grain, because I'm gonna try and use the least amount of fabric as we can here, because I need this gray for the second blanket, which I think I have enough of, or I have to go back and get more. I don't wanna go back to Joann's. It was nuts. Oh my God. They have our Joann's so messed up. So it was just total chaos. It was like panic zone. And they have the polar fleece in an aisle that's literally 1 cart wide. Like the edges of the cart are actually skimming the fabric. I don't understand why they need to pack that much into the store. You know, they could pull out a little bit of the nonsense that's just completely ridiculous. Just leave me my fabric and pull out some other drama. So much nonsense in there. Joann's is like the last bastion, other than maybe like one other fabric store of fabric here in St. Louis area, which kind of sucks. I shop online all the time because there's just nowhere that has the quality of fabric, and Joann's doesn't really have the quality of fabric. Like you pay way too much, since like the music stopped. You pay way too much for what you get at Joann's. I just don't understand. So I won't even buy it unless it's on sale there. Like knits are nuts there. Knits are nuts. I don't buy knits there, not unless it's an emergency, because their knits are such low quality. So for the same price, I go, like if it's just a jersey cotton in that, my favorite is Girl Charlie. Girlcharlee, Girl Charlie Fabrics. Girl Charlie Fabrics are made in the US. They're an amazing company. Their stuff is awesome. You can get stuff super cheap and you can get stuff pricey, but never too pricey. So I like to go there and shop because they ship fast too, and their customer service is A+. Very A+. Okay, there we go. Here we go, here we go. All right, now this one's a little silly. We'll have to smooth this one around. More diagonal pinning. When I picked this project, I thought it was going to be super simple, but I didn't really count how many pattern pieces there was going to be. That's ridiculous. There's so many little fins, but it's going to be so cute. OMG. This one's for my youngest, and then I have a red and gray one coming from my oldest, because his color is red and my youngest color is neon green. They picked their colors when they were little, from the time they've been little people, because they became the same size very quickly. And so we had to figure out whose stuff was what. So it became like a color coding system of neon green and red or orange. Surprisingly enough, you can get a lot of stuff in lime green. Nice and easy color to find. It's very popular. When he goes to school, sometimes I lose him in a crowd because I think, oh yeah, it'd be easy to find him. He's the kid in the neon green. Nope, they're all in neon green. Then I lose him. That's okay, he finds me. He's so big now. They're getting so big now. They're almost as tall as me. There we go. Get these pins. Pins. This is just silly here. A weird piece. I don't like cutting these weird shaped pieces. So if you don't like cutting weird shaped pieces, you are not alone. I don't like cutting weird shaped pieces, and I like cutting actually. I'm that weird person who says cutting is one of my favorite parts of the project, because when I'm not streaming my cutting, what I like to do is get out something to watch on my tablet, something Netflix or, you know, maybe Funimation, something that I can kind of half listen to that I've already watched. I made a wedding dress to Star Trek The Next Generation one year. That was really fun. I actually watched the entire series. That tells you how many hours I worked on that wedding dress. And then another wedding dress, the other one that I did, what was it? John, do you remember? My husband's online here, I think. I don't remember what the other series I watched was. I know I did Next Generation on one. Anyway, I like to pick a series and just like hardcore go through it, especially during the cutting and the hand sewing phases. And it just gives you a great excuse, because now you're like, oh, I need to do my cutting tonight because I totally want to binge watch that. The only problem is when you have to get up and move to your machine and then you can't watch or you can't hear it anymore. It's just like, no, I have to rewind. Yeah, I'm old school. I said the word rebind. See, I did that little business there. Thank goodness for seam allowances. And when you hear me going to the point, that is because I am accidentally squeezing too hard, because these scissors are very tight. And my thumb, I have a tendon in my thumb that tends to give me some trouble. So there we go. I'm gonna get that with the rotary cutter, this with the rotary cutter. Then we'll put those pieces with the other pieces. I'm almost done cutting. Okay. It's very dramatic. Almost done cutting. Turn, turn, turn. Get this. And see, this piece is already starting to give me a little trouble. These pieces on the bias like this, they stretch really easy. The bias is the 45 degree of the fabric. So we have our threads going left and right and up and down. And so the bias is when they're like this. And what it does is it makes it really easy to stretch. And there was complete periods in history where we did not have knits that were worn on the outside. And there are 5 fashion designers that specialized in working on the bias. And the one I am thinking of is slipping my mind right now, But later I will tell you more about her whenever I think about it. She was a 1930s designer, and she's the one who designed the body hugging dress. Very first of its kind, because she was using everything. Ooh, almost forgot to do our marking. So if you forget to do that, you can just drop your pins back in. There we go. Ooh, it looks like we never marked that on those other pieces. Let's mark that. Madeleine Vionnet. That's who it is. So Vionnet, Miss Vionnet, was very famously known for her bias cut dresses, her bias cut gowns. She also made gowns that were, she did a dress with Pablo Picasso, actually. Some really interesting art stuffs going on. So if you ever get a chance to Google her, do so, because she is fantastic and amazing, and you can see just how much you can do with just so little. So she had access only to standard wovens and managed to get them to act like a knit by simply working on the bias. All right, so we're just gonna give this a little pin here because I forgot. I know, I'm bad. I'm a bad sewer, I forgot. No, I'm not. I'm a normal sewer because I forgot. This is where sharp scissors, all the way to the tip. You gotta cut to the top. I have this upside down because when I cut this, it was actually this way. So I have to get it upside down because one piece is right side up and one piece is upside down. I'm going to stack these 4 together so I know which ones they are, because this starts to get very confusing when we have lots of pieces. Put them all together. Now we only have that other one to cut out. Oh, and then we just have the appliques. This thing has like 100 million pieces. Yikes, Horace. All right. There we go. Let's see, which way do I want to cut this? I need a wider rotary cutter here so I don't have to cut. This one doesn't cut it. I need like another one. Actually, what I need is to do like a second one. That'd be good. Just glue them together. Tape them together. What am I doing here? Oh, this guy. Okay, why would fabric be labeled not for children's sleepwear? I have a really good answer for you. It is because in the 1950s, we were first using technical fabrics, which were essentially polyesters and rayons. Okay, there was a specific kind of rayon that would catch on fire. They made clothes out of it. They made jewelry out of it. It would almost like spontaneously catch on fire. It would heat, and then, so fireplaces, which were common in the home, people would, especially women and children, would get too close to the fireplace and they would catch fire. So the U.S. decided to put a law into place that they had to mark where fabrics were usable so that people would know which fabrics were suitable for children's sleepwear. So in the U.S., as of this point, it is by law required that when you are labeling something officially as sleepwear, it should be fire retardant. In other words, it shouldn't actually catch full flame. So fabrics are treated with a fire retardant in order to call them sleepwear. The ironic and comical thing, as with anything that goes with the U.S. government, is after enough washings, the fire retardant goes away. And then now you're left with just a standard fabric. So I still make stuff for my kids, and I have, with fabrics that I know are suitable for children's sleepwear. That's just my choice. But technically, you're not supposed to make children's sleepwear out of it. Just like technically, you're not supposed to eat sushi, but I eat sushi. Yum, yum, yum. I love sushi. So that is a very good question, though, and it makes people really freaked out and nervous to give gifts. And if you have any gifts that you're making for little people, go ahead and make them out of whatever you want, because I guarantee you it's not a problem. Actually, for children, I like to just make things from natural fibers because I think it breathes well in their skin if they're really little. So cottons or cotton poly blends. Although I make a lot out of polar fleece for my kids. They love their polar fleece PJs, and so do I. I like mine. All right, that's a good enough one to go here. Did that answer the question? Hopefully. My long answer to a short question, because I like to rant about stuff that drives me insane. And I hate that stuff because it drives me insane. I was really proud of myself over the weekend because I saw a woman in the aisle at Joann's over by the needles because I was getting a big pack of pins. These like quilting pins that I use up for my thing here. And she looked like she was really struggling, so I looked over at her and I'm like, do you need any help? And then I got to talk to her all about needles and needle selection, and she was so happy when she left, so I made a sewing day. I'm so happy when I get to make a sewer's day. So yeah, I just love sewing. That's why I'm streaming my sewing, because I want to teach everyone to sew, because I think everyone can sew, personally. And if you don't think you can, you just have to find the right project to practice on. It's always about breaking things into small enough steps that they become reasonable to manage. And there's just, I think the reason sewing is hard. I was on Casey Renee Cosplay the other day, and I was talking to her, and she was like, I think sewing hard. And I'm like, actually, I don't think sewing is hard. And here's why. I don't think that sewing is hard because you can break it down into individual steps. But I do think that getting it broken down into individual steps is hard. I also think that it is there's so many different things we have to learn just to get to the point we did here today. What do we have to learn? We had to learn how to put fabric on grate. We had to learn how to fold the fabric. We had to learn how to smooth the fabric. We had to learn how to select the fabric. We had to cut our pattern, figure out what size or which pattern pieces we needed. Then we had to pin the fabric. So we had to go a huge distance. And I think the daunting thing about sewing isn't any one individual step, is that there's so many steps. And I think that's where hard is. But I don't like the word hard, because the word hard implies that you can't do it in some way, shape, or form. It is complicated. I will agree to that word, because I don't like to use words like hard, because I think they make people turned away from things. You know, when my kids are, and I talk about my kids all the time because we use life lessons, you know. Life lesson, nothing's really ever that hard if you can break it down into simple steps. And things, though, can be extremely complicated. And I'll agree to complicated, because stuff does get complicated. Life gets complicated. Just sometimes I think just walking on my own 2 feet gets complicated. So that's just the way it rolls. I'm going to change this playlist. This playlist sounds like something from a DIY video. I'm not sure I'm loving it. Let's see what we can find here. No, not there. Sometimes this is crazy. Let's play all here. Let's try this. All right. Now, what's next? We cut all those. Oh, I see what we have next. Next, we have these pieces. So I'm going to bring that camera down again. This camera is a never-ending blitz of up, down, up, down, up, down. Can't wait till I have something that zooms instead of having to do this manual zooming. There we go. Let's explain these pieces. Whenever you have an applique, so applique, just to go back on what's applique. Applique is just basically cutting out a small piece of fabric and putting it onto another piece of fabric with either iron-on glue and then sewing, or just sewing, hand stitching around the edges. So it's really fancy French word for sticking a shape on top of a shape until I make a pretty picture. So these you leave, they'll come in a square, and on the big pattern companies, this is pretty much how they always come. They come in a square, and these are going to be the actual shapes. Now we need an outer eyeball and an inner eyeball, and we need 2 of them. And then we also need, this is the inner eyeball. Let's see. So these should be able to go one over, so that is the inside, and that is the outside. And what I think is weird is how they have you cut these, because we could cut these too tall. I don't know why they have them like this, but that's how they do. Now I usually copy these Let me get some paper and I'll show you how I copy these. You do this the easy way. Knocking over my setup everywhere. All right, here's my paper. This looks really fancy, but it's from the kids section at IKEA. I like the kids section at IKEA. So let me get my paper scissors. We don't cut fabric with our regular scissors. We cut fabric with our paper scissors. I'm just getting this. There's a sticker here. Just trying to get that sticker off. All right. Here. Everything away. Ooh, they glue those in. Those are crazy. Okay. So let me get a piece here. I'm just going to cut this off right here on the edge. Okay. Move that over. Sorry for the loud. Now, what I can do is, you guys may not be able to see it. You can't see it on camera. When you don't have overhead lighting, this is much easier. You can actually see through into those. But if you can't, what you can do, there's a little trick, is that these bleed on, this paper will bleed onto this paper. So if I get a marker, what I can do is get a marker and a little bit of tape. And the tape's just to hold it still. I trace off these little itty bitty pieces and I'll just cut that off later. Okay. I'm just going to make one of these rather than making two. I don't know why I need to make two. I just make one because then I just cut two eyes. And what I'm going to do is just do this until I feel that ink going through. And whenever we take that loose, what you're going to see is that ink bled all the way through. Now you could, sorry guys, my words are fleeting tonight. You could go the whole way, but I'm just going to make little, I don't want to go the whole way around just because I'm lazy. Turning my paper. I'll show you here in just a second. Now there's this little center here, which I think they want you to have as like where the eyeball goes, the center, a little white. What I'll probably do is just embroider that, and that'll make it easier. Let's take this off. We can just kind of, try not to rip our pattern apart. Now see, what we have left is a circle that we can cut out. That is a cool trick for copying on tissue patterns. You can do that to copy any tissue. What kind of pen? This is a Bic Intensity Fine. You just need one that's got a felt tip, something that actually bleeds a lot of liquid of marker out. These I got. These are new. No, not a ballpoint. Ballpoints don't push enough. This one has. I don't know. Can you guys see the? This one has. Let me show you. This one has a like a marker type tip. It's just a really fine tip marker. Let me see if I can make that camera help me out here so you can see the tip of that. I'm going to pull this out of focus here just a second. Okay. Autofocus. Let's see if autofocus will do it. Here we go. All right, there we go. So do you see how you see that pen? Yeah, it needs a felt tip. And I'm going to pull that off autofocus before it all gives us motion sickness, because for some unknown reason, this camera really loves autofocus. And then if I wanted to, I could, you know, draw this line in and make myself happy. Now be careful, these bleed a lot through, even through this paper. So if you don't want to bleed onto your pretty little board, I would fold it like this so it doesn't bleed on there. Now I'm going to write on here, inner eyeball. Cut 2. So when I do my own pattern pieces, I consistently mark them. I can write a lot smaller than they do sometimes. And then I'm actually going to write what pattern it's for in case I get it confused with another pattern. Simplicity 8275. Okay, that ought to be enough to get me through where I need to go. I'm probably going to do is just poke a hole in there for whenever I copy this onto the fabric. Now we're going to do this one. We'll do it over here using our paper as much as we can. Little tape. I discovered this bleeding thing a little while back accidentally when I was trying to, when I have a multi-size pattern, I always trace out which size I'm going to use with different colors of marker. And I had used a Crayola marker. Normally it should be no problem, but I had not put anything under. I had it on a white table, and I started to draw because normally I use a gel pen or a ballpoint pen, and I started to draw and it went right through the table. And I thought, oh, cool. I can just go the other way. I don't have to copy it that way. I can actually just copy right on using that. And so when I have tissue paper patterns, I do it from the top that way. It just makes it really, really easy. And if you use a thinner paper, you can go from the bottom on these a lot of times, but do them from the top. When you have PDF patterns, though, that doesn't work as well because your paper is probably much thicker than this stuff. Although a Sharpie will still bleed through that. So I'm going to go ahead and do that here. And I'm just going a couple of times, left and right, back and forth, back and forth. Just be careful not to go so much you can rip it. You can actually bleed through so much ink that it will shred. It'll get waterlogged, essentially. I love happy accidents, and this is just a grand happy accident that has saved me so much time because I almost never truly cut my patterns. Now, I also like to get a multi-pack of different colors because then I know what different things are for. So I'm using this red here on this one. And it doesn't, as long as you don't go too crazy with it, you won't injure your pattern up here. And we're just trying to get a ghost image on the other side because we can copy up onto the other one. Then when you're doing your tape, another trick on the tape is you can take your scissors and just kind of like go down the edge, and now you've got that. Now, if I were to use this piece again, I would just tape over where I've previously taped, because essentially that's reinforcement. Makes it easy. So now we have this piece. You know what? We forgot to put the number on the other piece just for you know what and grins. That one is number 9. Yeah, number 9. And this is number 8. And so since we're going to be cutting this out, I won't worry about it, but for the sake of the camera, I'll go ahead and just hand draw. Now, if your hand isn't this steady, you could make a lot more little dots or dotted lines. That's totally up to you. And when you're doing your scissors, you wouldn't even have to do this at all. You could just do this with your scissors. Now, the inner ones, I'll go back and trace over properly. And I'm also going to make a note onto here that says like put 9 here, because all this is a placement line. Because realistically, this is a circle that goes in here. So why we need a special placement line for that, I don't know. And we're just going to line up the eyeball onto this one, and we could just use our brains for it. But they need the directions. You got to do it that way. That's how appliques are written. I'm going to say place 9 here because I like to put all my notes on my patterns. That way I never have to put out, oh, thank you so much for the follow, by the way. My computer didn't make any noises. It's being ridiculous. I know it was a little while ago. But it's I don't know why this thing isn't working. Streamlabs doesn't work very well for me. It's not like doing its alerts like it should. I don't actually know why. I'm going to have to put in a support ticket because it's just messed up. It should be giving me alerts. And I also don't have music properly either. I don't know why that happened. Huh. like my internet is crazy, but it's not. YouTube. I'm gonna have to download these. Oh, say hi to Dana for me. Hopefully I'm not too boring. This is the tedious, more boring parts, but these are actually the parts I really like. Okay, so we put the place 9 there, and let me go back to my purple because I'm really, really a big person on being consistent. I think that's why I sew. People say I sew well. It's really not that I sew well. It's really that I am insanely OCD about consistency, and that makes you a really good sewer when you're really consistent, because it's a lot of repetitive tasks. It's the same thing over and over. Once you get it once, if you can get it once and keep on going, it will keep going, and you'll just, you know, move and move and move and move, and it works great. Okay, so this is Simplicity 8275. I applique, and we're going to write cut 2. Now the original piece had cut 1, but remember the original piece had 2 of the same one. Don't know why. Doesn't make any sense. They'll use so little paper and everything else and then do the paper for that. Now we'll cut these out. I'm going to show you guys one of my favorite tools in my sewing room. This is a Japanese blade. It is a utility knife, but it's a tiny little utility knife that is a break-off knife. And it is very, very easy to use, and the refills are very cheap, and it is much easier than cutting paper patterns out with my scissors. Like, way easier. Now here's my other trick, my scrunching. I scrunch and then throw on the floor, because then I know if one of my real pieces falls on the floor, it's not scrunched up. So little weirdnesses that we all have. So I'm going to separate that out, and I'm going to separate that out, and then we are going to cut these out. I'm going to put these back up on the wall, up here. There we go. So my next big giant mega project for Archon next year, I have decided what it is. Yeah, I am going to be making the Sugar Plum Fairy from the new movie, The Nutcracker. I could not help myself. I want to kind of do spoilers, but then I know I'll be a really bad human. So I'm not going to say any spoilers, but her character was too perfect to pass up, and her dress was too awesome to pass up. Just perfect. I want to say more. Like, I want to say more so bad. Did you watch it yet? Because if you have watched it yet, then you also know why I want to do it, because her character is just cool. So I get to be her on stage. But I'll need some nutcrackers. Or some tin soldiers. Okay, being careful not to mention anything. I am the worst at spoiling movies. Like, seriously, I am the absolute worst. I am trying so hard right now because I want to talk about it so bad. And I know it's not a big deal. It's not like I'm spoiling Doctor Who or anything. But I think that I'm going to have a good time. But why do I do this to myself? So the first year I competed at Archon, I competed with a hanbok, which is traditional Korean clothing. And I pleaded 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 and I pleaded. Now I'm going to make an entire dress covered in teeny weeny little pleats. And I'm a nutcase, so I'm going to have to I'm actually going to build a rig for pleating it. Oh, no, I wouldn't spoil Doctor Who, for sure. I'm able to zip the mouth, but I'm saying at least it's not a Doctor Who spoiler. See, because I'm trying to be a good girl. Now, the only problem with cutting down on the table like that, I don't know if you guys can see, I got like a little pointiness going on there. So I'll just take my scissors. It is easier to cut circles with your scissors. Much easier. Okay, now I have to walk across to the other side of the room to get the right fabric for this. Maybe. Oh, you know what we're going to do? We're going to make this even easier on ourselves. We're going to cut the bond, the fabric bond first, because we can trace that really easy on the back, and then we can put those down onto our fabric. Give me 1 second here. I'm going to use Heat and Bond Lightweight. We're just going to do this the easy way. I like these kind of shapes because you don't have to worry about mirroring. I made a big boo-boo on the Naruto appliques that I did for my kids because I did not mirror the whole thing. On these little pieces, another way to mirror them is to actually just scan them and put them on your computer, and then you can mirror them really easily. So I'm going to cut here and here, and then a few more. The good thing about the Heat and Bond is you don't have to have any direction that you put anything in. It's basically just, Heat and Bond is just glue, just iron-on glue, so you can really maximize this stuff, especially because this stuff is not cheap. I'm going to switch to the gel pen because I like gel pens. So I'm just going to do a pretty basic tracing. Now, this is paper on the back of this, which makes it really great because we can trace out these shapes and then we won't have to trace these onto the fabric. So there's one and one. And you cut this stuff not with your super awesome fabric scissors, but cut this stuff with your either your knife or sometimes your knife or your paper scissors, because it's paper. Paper has little bits of silica in it. I swear there's something in my sweater that's itching. I don't know what's itching. Oh, silly me. All right, let's get this out. I kind of moved in my gel pen just because it makes a thicker line. Nope. Put that back there. Sometimes my hands just don't work the way they should. I don't even have like a good excuse like arthritis or anything. I'm just rushing. I'm always rushing on this part. All right. There we go. All right, there we go, and there we go, and there we go, and there we go now. Oh, I was saying back to the 90s thing that I was saying earlier. So I was talking to my son, and I said something about you have to shake it. And then I went, shake it like a Polaroid picture. Come on, shake it. And he just looks at me. And he goes, and I was talking to my mom at the time, and she's like, what? Because I started laughing, and he just looks at me with this, what is going on? So I said, you know, my son's giving me this crazy look. And he goes, Mom, it's not a crazy look. It's a look of, I have no idea what you're talking about. And I'm like, oh, I forgot. You're a noob. You're only 12. You have no idea what that song is. Nor does he have an idea what a Polaroid picture is. The closest they have is Instax, which is basically a printer that prints your pictures from your cell phone. So it's a Bluetooth printer, which is not a Polaroid, and they don't understand how Polaroid worked. Polaroid is pretty cool. It was a cool chemical science. All right, we're just going to cut these out, and then we can fuse these right onto our fabric, and then we will not have to do any, we can just cut around the edge where we see the paper. We don't have to do any fancy copying because these pieces are really teeny weenies. There we go. Throw that business on the floor. Now what I don't have here that I have at home is my lovely husband he's my helper cleanup crew. And he'll come through and he can clean up from a sewing mess faster than anybody I have ever seen. He is spectacular. And believe me, sometimes it looks like full level insanity chaos when I've been working, especially if I've been working for a long time with like weird stuff. Last year I helped my son's school with their play they were doing Seussical. And we had feathers, 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 and more feathers. There was 9 characters that were birds. So it was a crazy mess between feathers, red sequins, which the cat in hat wore, because he's a very fantastic child who made him. He was so good that the little kids came up afterwards and were like, "Hi, Mr. Cat," which, you know, that really just tells you how much he embodied cat. But we had designed him to be a more sparkly version. So he got this awesome, sparkly, sequined red vest, which was so cool. Then we put him in black clothes because we were doing like a sort of a bit of a humanized version, because, you know, doing full-on cats is like difficult. Okay, give me a minute because I didn't think I'd get this far here. And then we're going to go get some fabric. So I guess these should be black and these should be white. I have some white canvas, I think, back over in my corner, and I think I have some black in there. And we're going to be sewing over the edges, so it's okay if it doesn't fray. And I really don't want to use polar fleece for these because eyes are not fuzzy. So I don't really want fuzzy eye fabric. Give me 1 second, and I'm going to go. I'll put on my little BRB screen, and I will be right back in like 2 minutes. Okay, I'm back. I had to get the iron configured, and then we will get the stuff cut. Now, one thing that you guys are going to notice is my black fabrics get covered in cat hair. So let's cut the white first. What we're going to do, and we'll have to wait a minute or two here for this iron to heat up. This is really wide. Wow. I don't even know why I have this. Oh, I know what this was from. This was denim that I had used in a corset for a wedding dress. When you cannot get a hold of coutil, duck canvas or very heavy denim is a grand way to manage whenever you need. Let's get the ironing board on there. Never, 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 never put the iron direct onto your cutting mat, your rotary cutting mat, because you'll ruin it. It'll actually bubble up. It's bad. I ruined one of my Olfa ones that way. I was really upset, but then it got repurposed. So what happens to it is it bubbles up, and it's not a good thing. It's not a good thing at all. And it'll bubble up. And then I tried to fix it by heating it again, and it bubbled up more. And so we ended up, my husband has it, and it's used for foam and for sticky things and things that are not going to get used on one of my good cutting tables. So, you know, at the end of the day, we have a very overpriced cutting table for the sticky stuff. All right, so while this iron heats up, it is the world's slowest iron to heat up. I have this set, because this is a canvas here, I'm gonna have this set to, what do I have it set to? Just kind of 1, we're gonna turn that up to a 3. Get it nice and hot. And this is not my favorite iron. This is actually a super fancy iron that I hate, but I have it here because this is my extra studio. My gravity feed iron is what I have at home. This one takes forever to heat up. It's one of those like $200 ones. It was partially purchased as a gift, so I can't take all the blame for it, but I will never buy one that expensive again. My actually favorite iron that I have and have had was my Shark, other than a gravity feed. So if you don't know what a gravity feed iron is, it's no big deal. A gravity feed iron is simply an iron that has a separate tank. They're what's used at like professional places because they hold a large tank, and they are really nice because the steam feeds and they can have a long, massive amount of steam, which is great. But they are very difficult to move around. You have to have a place, essentially like an IV stand, or you have to have it up on the wall to hold that up. So it becomes a little bit difficult in a lot of situations. But honestly, I'm perfectly happy with my $50 Shark that I used until it died. So we're just gonna take our iron over this. Oh, let's do this here. So I got it just nice and hot, and we're just gonna quickly go. No steam yet. Okay, so I'm gonna just kind of quickly cut that out while we wait for that to cool off. So there's 2 white eyeballs. And I'll let that cool before I worry about that. And I won't make you guys watch me fold that. So it's gonna go on the floor. I don't have any cats here, so I can throw stuff on the floor. This is a really, really pretty drapey. I guess it's a poly. But I'm only gonna use a little bit of it, so it's okay. This would make a really nice top or a skirt. I'm just gonna get a corner of it. I know this won't hurt anything to get a corner out of it. And of course we're gonna be on black. Where's my 2 little eyeballs? There we go. And you can see these little tiny pieces would be a pain in the butt, you know, to get on here and cut. But now they're not gonna be a pain at all because we have this applique on them. Now you wanna put this onto the wrong side of whichever you plan to call the right side. I forgot to mention that earlier. If you don't, then, you know, this is where the glue side is. So you want to put this onto the wrong side. On these, I didn't care because honestly, they're eyeballs, wrong side, right side, nah. I would definitely care. Now, I would also care about ironing my fabric properly and using a cover on top if I were sewing for real, because I don't know if you guys can see, but I had my iron too hot for this fabric, and there is a little bit of changing color from that. So be careful and use a pressing cloth when you're doing this kind of stuff. So now what we will do is just simply cut this out. This back away. And then we will have to get out our gigantic green pieces. And then once we get those out, we will place all this business on there. Now you are gonna end up having to sew over these on that polar fleece. I've never seen anything fusing wise stick very well enough to not need sewn on that polar fleece. I just haven't. It's too fuzzy. All right. There's one. And here we go for 2. I'll come back around and get that little edge. No big deal. Promise you I know how to cut. Here we go. Here we go. One of my little guys who used to do that when he was little. Here we go. All right. Move the black fuzz. You can see that stuff makes a lot of fuzz. My scissors. Get rid of the black fuzz. Now we'll cut the white. Hopefully that shows up okay. Get the excess off. Maybe we'll make, I'm going to have a lot of layers to make when I need that for that new dress I'm making. So I have petticoat, I have hoops, I have corset, I have outer stuff. So there's going to be all sorts of new stuff going up. I'll be making tutorials along the way as well for different pieces and parts. You'll get to watch me make almost all of it. Not all of it, because the goal is to have a year to make it. Right abouts. Our con is in October, so right abouts a year. And it'll give me a nice good focus. I try to do, technically I do 3 cosplays every year. I do 1 for each of my kids, and then I do 1 for myself. This year I'm going to try and sneak in 4 because I'm going to try and get 1 in for my husband. All right, so we have eyeballs. And now I need to grab the large pieces, and I need to clean up my table here. Okay, there, get my big pieces. All right, let's make this big so you guys can see. There we go. All right, here we go. And this neon green fabric, it does not want to show up on camera. It is so freaking bright. It's crazy. I should put this stuff back up here because then I wouldn't be losing it under these gigantic pieces. This back away. It's nice to have everything at a finger's reach. All right, put that one under the table here. Get this moved. What we're gonna have to do, the reason I'm clearing up so much space, is put the pattern back down and kind of just get a marking of where the eye goes. And we're gonna do this real simple. What we're gonna do is line this pattern back up here. You pop a couple pins like here and here, and we're gonna slide that applique down under here and hit that with the iron just for a smidge a bit of time. And then we can pull this up and we can finish that eye off. You'll see. There we go here. And here we go here. So I'm gonna work this as flat as I can until we get to a point. So here we go. We're going to peel. So if you look here, you should get, and you should feel that this should be really shiny now. I don't know if you guys can tell how shiny that is. So it has autofocus, I believe, on. And you can feel it's a little sticky, a little shiny, and that's how you know that your glue stayed on and that that didn't come off. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're just going to hold that under here. We can see through this. So right there. And I'm gonna grab pressing cloth. Don't have a specific pressing cloth with me today, so I'm gonna use a bit of this muslin. I always keep a little extra muslin around. It's easily usable as a pressing cloth. So let's just cut some of this. Cut and tear and cut and tear. All right. Now on even weave fabrics, which muslin is a broadcloth. Broadcloth is the same thing as quilting cotton. When you are on the grain, you can do that. You can actually just rip it. So to do that, you just take a single snip inside and then you just pull that right down and you can rip it like that. You can also do on the cross grain, but it will not work as easily on the cross grain. So we're gonna get this a little smaller. So a pressing cloth can be made out of any fabric that can be heated enough to withstand the pressing. And what that does is it takes a little bit of, just a smidge, just a bit of heat away so that the iron doesn't directly touch the fabric. And since this fleece can melt with a very hot iron, which by the way, I'm gonna turn my iron down just a smidge, we're gonna go ahead and do that. So I'm going to take this off here like that. I'm actually going to leave that there just temporarily. So I put this with the glue side down. You put it with the glue side up. You can glue it to your iron or to your pressing cloth. Now if you glue it to your pressing cloth, no big deal. Make another pressing cloth. Glue it to your iron, you have a mess. I like to tell first-time sewers especially that get a cheap iron because you're going to glue stuff to your iron. Now there is some great stuff for cleaning your iron. I believe it's called Iron Off. I'll look it up, but it's actually, it smells really interesting. You want to do it near a window because it will make a little smoke, but it will clean off most of the glue off your iron. It's really good stuff. Okay, and I can make a video on your iron. So we're going to do that here, and I'm going to again use dry heat on this. Or I lied. I love to use the steam on this. Listen to that sound. And then I'm just going to kind of give it a good, oh boy, I'm on the wrong thing here. Good thing that was, see, when you're not paying attention, that's the kind of stuff that happens. Should have put this up on there. We can see it's stuck-ish. I think it's stuck-ish enough. Is it stuck-ish enough? I think so. All right. Boy, was I lucky I had that pressing cloth and that fleece is really thick. Now we'll give it a little heat. A little steam. Give it a good little go. The reason I hate this iron is it has a tendency to spit whenever it's not warmed up all enough or in the very beginning of when I'm using it. And when I say spitting, when a sewer says spitting, it's whenever the iron should be having steam, but instead comes out water. Why is that a problem? When you are using some kinds of fabrics, when you heat them and put water on them, that is permanent. They will have a different color there forever and ever, amen. And you will not be very happy because you essentially ruined that piece. I have been able to rescue pieces before by simply ironing the whole thing. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you don't get an even color. So here's that black part of the eyeball. Just gonna lay that. Honestly, I'm just placing this so it kind of looks like an eyeball. That's actually pretty cute. Then on there, you can still see through that. Now silk, 100% silk organza is my favorite pressing cloth because it actually it can take the heat. You can see right through it. It's very nice. See the spitting. And it's gonna keep doing that. Now this is not gonna hurt, but I don't like that this thing will spit initially. You have to like run it halfway through or it will spit. Really, it irritates me to no end. Now, we need to do the other side of this. Now, we're only going to do this on one side because he's not a four-eyed, shark. He has only two eyes. I mean, I guess we could make him a four-eyed shark. Be funny. Like a flounder and a shark all at the same time. All right, we're going to move this here. Okay. Now we're going to put this on here upside down because that's the other side. This is the back side. This is where having tissue paper patterns is helpful, but when I have non-tissue paper patterns, I just simply copy it to the other side using my marker bleed technology. See, advanced marker bleed technology. All right, here we go. Now one here, and line that up. Oh, nope. Did I have that on the, oh, that is the fold, okay. I don't know, we'll see. I think that's dead center anyway. I think I did the other one on the wrong way. Did I do the other side the wrong way? Let's check it. Can't change it now. We'll just have to change it to the right way. Which way was the fold? The fold was this way. It's just, yes, I did do that the wrong way. His eyes will just be a little further apart. That's okay, because I'm talking to you guys, and I am not paying attention on how I place my pattern piece. This whole streaming and sewing thing is new. Normally, I'm so used to being quiet. I put on my headphones. No, I don't put on my headphones if I'm actually sewing. Hey, how you doing? Welcome to the channel. All right, we are making a shark blanket. So I need I want like a baby shark techno remix version, like baby shark, boom, 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 baby shark. You know, that kind of thing. I'm really dorky. I love the baby shark song, mostly because my kids hate it and I get to annoy the bejesus out of them. So I pulled that paper off and I've got that glue on here. And it's nice because it's not sticky. You can keep it off. And we're just going to place this under here like so, just kind of arranging it. I think his eyes will just be kind of further apart, so he'll look like Derpy Shark, which is even better. I like Derpy. Do Derpy. And I'm just going to put a pin in that. Now, I didn't do that last time because I have to raise this up, and I'm just going to put the pin in it temporarily. Now, the other side, it's a little harder to get through because we're pinning all the way to that other side. So we can get rid of this fabric, this pattern piece now. All right. So ice wallow, come. Oh yeah, I get your thing now. All right, I got it. You got me. Okay, never mind. I'm not going there. That one's gonna get clipped out. Lols. Okay, here we go. I am tired today. That's the only reason that one got me. Here we go. That was distracting. Anyway. Oh, we forgot to take that pin out. This is why I like to use these type of pins or glass head pins because these don't melt when you put them in there. All right. Oh, that was not a good thing to do. I left that there. All right. I think once we finish with the eyeballs here, we're probably going to be done for the evening. And then that way we can sew next time. Try and get some sewing done on next. No, I won't be on next Tuesday. I will be on Wednesday and Thursday. There is an appointment next Tuesday that I have to go to. So I will not be on for Tuesday. I might try and get in another day, maybe some on Friday. We'll see. Okay. All right. Line that up. Got our pressing cloth back on. Try not to have this thing spray out all of the water. Thankfully, this fabric doesn't care. I'm gonna have to figure out why that iron is doing that. All right, now what we're gonna do next time is zigzag around the edges of this, zigzag around the edges of this, and that will actually hold this onto the fabric. I may zigzag or I may hand stitch. Either way it'll work. I'll probably assemble the shark before I do that actually, just because that's a longer, slower process, and it feels stuck on pretty good. All right, and then if anybody doesn't have any other questions for me, I see the chat's kind of winding down. I'm going to go ahead and be done for the evening, and I will hopefully see you guys on Wednesday, if not sooner, where we will start assembling and actually sewing and pinning everything all together. So I hope you guys have a good night. Thanks. Bye.